Yellowstone National Park is the home of the Yellowstone caldera, also known as the Yellowstone supervolcano. It is one of the largest active volcanoes in the world, and it has been the site of some truly spectacular eruptions in the past. But what about now? What's going on with the Yellowstone supervolcano right now? You might be surprised to learn that it is actually bubbling away quietly, and there are plenty of signs that it could erupt again soon. So today we're going to take a look at what's happening with this massive volcano and what it means for the rest of us. The Yellowstone supervolcano, located in the northwest corner of Wyoming, is one of the most active geothermal regions on Earth. The area surrounding the volcano is known as the Yellowstone Supervolcanic Center, and it covers an area of around 43 by 28 miles, or 70 by 45 kilometers. Within this center, there are three major calderas, which are large depressions formed by volcanic activity. These are the Silver, the Lake Yellowstone, and the Norris Geyser basins. Between them, they contain some of the most impressive features of Yellowstone National Park, including the Grand Prismatic Spring, Old Faithful, and the Mammoth Hot Springs. But what makes these springs and geysers so unique is the fact that they are all sitting on top of magma chambers that are constantly being replenished by the heat from the Yellowstone supervolcano. This heat comes from the radioactive elements that are found deep within the Earth's crust, and it is responsible for creating the hot springs and geysers that are found throughout the park. But it's not just the heat that comes from these magma chambers. Every once in a while, the pressure from the magma is released in the form of an earthquake. In fact, Yellowstone is one of the most seismically active places in the United States. Most of these earthquakes are small and go unnoticed, but occasionally a larger one will occur and can be felt throughout the region. The largest earthquake ever recorded in Yellowstone was a magnitude 7.3, and it happened back in 1985. Luckily, there were no casualties, but it was still the most powerful earthquake in the lower 48 states since 1960. Earthquakes aren't the only sign that something big is about to happen. There are other indicators that scientists use to monitor the activity of the Yellowstone supervolcano. One of the most important is the rate of uplift that occurs in the region. When magma is being added to the magma chamber, it causes the land to rise. Scientists measure this uplift using a network of GPS stations that are placed around the caldera. If the land starts to rise at a faster rate, it could be a sign that a major eruption is on the horizon. Another sign to look out for is changes in the color of the water in the hot springs and geysers. When the water changes color, it means that the temperature has changed, which could indicate that the magma chamber is getting hotter. This is because the temperature of the water is directly related to the temperature of the magma that is below it. So if the magma is getting hotter, the water will get hotter too. But perhaps the most obvious sign that the Yellowstone supervolcano is about to erupt is when it actually starts to smoke. That's right. Smoke. When the pressure in the magma chamber gets too high, it can cause gases to escape through cracks in the ground. This is what creates the steam that we see coming out of many of the geysers and hot springs in Yellowstone. But if the pressure gets even higher, then the gases will start to escape through vents in the ground. This is what creates the smoke that we see coming out of the volcano itself, and it's usually a sign that an eruption is imminent. So what does all this mean for us? Is the Yellowstone supervolcano about to blow its lid and end all life as we know it? Well, don't worry, it's not going to happen anytime soon. In fact, the chances of a major eruption in the next 10,000 years are about 1 in 10 million. But there is always a chance that something could go wrong, and it is important that we monitor the volcano closely. There are currently several projects that are underway to better understand and predict the behavior of the Yellowstone supervolcano. One of the most ambitious is the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, or YVO. The YVO is a partnership between the United States Geological Survey, the University of Utah, and the Idaho State University. They use a variety of methods to monitor the volcano, including GPS stations, seismographs, satellites, and even airplanes. This data is then used to create models that help scientists better understand the volcano and predict its behavior. But it's not just the scientists who are keeping an eye on the volcano. The government is also very interested in what happens at Yellowstone. That's because if the volcano were to erupt, it would cause massive damage and disruption to the rest of the country. In fact, the government has developed a plan for what would happen if the volcano were to erupt. This plan includes everything from evacuations to the deployment of the National Guard. Of course, it is unlikely that any of these measures would ever be needed, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Some people believe that the Yellowstone supervolcano is a much bigger threat than the government is letting on. They say that if the volcano were to erupt, it would cause a nuclear winter and wipe out all life on Earth. However, this is not true. While a super-eruption at Yellowstone would certainly be devastating, it would not have the power to destroy all life on Earth. There are plenty of examples from history that show us that even major volcanic eruptions can be survived by living things. For example, the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980 was one of the most violent eruptions in US history. Yet life still managed to find a way to come back and thrive in the area afterwards. The same would happen if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted. Yes, there would be massive damage and loss of life, but life would find a way to come back eventually. Of course, we should still take the threat posed by the Yellowstone supervolcano seriously. It is one of the most powerful forces of nature that we have to deal with, and we need to make sure that we are prepared for anything. But it is also important to remember that it is part of our world, and it is something that we should respect and appreciate. The Yellowstone supervolcano is a reminder of the awesome power of nature, and it is a place that we should all strive to protect. Now let's move on to the next question. What would happen if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted tomorrow? If the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt tomorrow, it would cause widespread devastation and disruption to the entire United States. Ash and debris would shoot into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and causing temperatures to plummet. Pyroclastic flows and mudslides would race down the slopes of the volcano, destroying everything in their path. And the shockwave from the blast would level forests and buildings for miles around. But it's not just the immediate damage that would be caused by such an eruption. The long-term effects would be just as devastating. The ash and debris thrown into the atmosphere would eventually fall back to Earth, covering large parts of the US in a layer of ash. This would make it difficult to breathe, and could cause widespread crop failure and food shortages. The shockwave from the blast would also trigger earthquakes and other volcanic activity around the world. And the sudden change in climate would cause mass extinctions of plants and animals everywhere. In short, if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted tomorrow, it would cause total chaos and destruction on a scale that we have not seen in thousands of years. So how likely is this actually going to happen? Well, don't worry too much. It's not likely to happen anytime soon. In fact, scientists estimate that there is only a 1 in 730,000 year chance of a super-eruption occurring in the next 10,000 years. But it is important to remember that even small changes in the behavior of the volcano could indicate that an eruption is imminent. So it is important that we continue to monitor it closely and be prepared for anything. What do you think? Do you think the Yellowstone supervolcano is a ticking time bomb? Or do you think it is safe to visit Yellowstone National Park? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.